There's a moment between your cry and God's response that feels like silence. Not just any silence but the kind that echoes your fears. Have you ever stood in your room, hands clenched, heart pounding, mouth open to pray and nothing came out? Not because you didn't believe, but because you were terrified that God might not answer. Or worse, that He would. Let me take you into that space. Into that silence. Because what happens next is the beginning of a prayer that could change everything. Elijah stood on Mount Carmel, drenched in the moment between defiance and obedience. The prophets of Baal had danced and shouted all day long, slicing their flesh to earn the favor of a God that would not answer. Now it was his turn. But let's back up not to the fire, but to the fear. Bold prayer doesn't start with loud declarations. It starts in the shadows where your faith is being questioned, not by others, but by your own thoughts. That place where you wonder, what if God doesn't show up? And that's where many of us are today. We're not trying to impress anyone. We're just trying to survive. Our hearts are broken, our dreams cracked, and our courage fading. But here's the truth, every bold prayer begins with a whisper. And every whisper, if surrendered to God, has the potential to roar. The anatomy of fear-filled faith. You've been taught to be reverent, respectful, maybe even a little quiet in your prayers. And yet, something in your spirit aches to shout, to cry out, to say things you're not even sure are spiritually correct. But let me ask you, when was the last time you prayed from the gut? I'm talking about the kind of prayer that bypasses theology and goes straight to the aching soul. That prayer that isn't concerned with grammar, but with groaning. That says, God, if you don't show up, I'm done. Scared? Good. You're in the perfect position to pray bold. Why fear doesn't disqualify you? There's this false belief that fear cancels out faith. But Scripture tells a different story. Gideon, trembling in the winepress. Esther, fasting for 3 days. David, composing psalms in caves. Their boldness wasn't born from fearlessness. It came from trusting God in spite of fear. So if your heart is racing, if you're unsure, if you feel small, that's your launching point. That's your Mount Carmel. That's where bold prayer is birthed. And no, God doesn't expect you to get it perfect. He just expects you to show up. 3 words that change everything. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, facing the horror of the cross, he prayed something radical. Not my will. It wasn't timid. It wasn't weak. It was bold. Because true boldness is surrender. It's saying, God, I trust your plan even when I don't understand it. Can you say that in your storm? Can you whisper it through your tears? That's the bold prayer. Not the one that demands, but the one that surrenders. The one that still believes. A room, a whisper, a miracle. Let me take you into a moment. A woman sits in a dimly lit room. She just lost her job. Her child is sick. Her husband left. She hasn't prayed in weeks, not really. But tonight, she's done pretending. No music. No candles. No mood. Just her. She kneels and says nothing at first. Then, a whisper. God, help. That's it. But in that whisper, angels lean in. Heaven tilts toward earth. Something unseen begins to shift. Because bold prayers don't start in fire, they start in silence. What bold prayer actually sounds like? It doesn't always sound like thunder. Sometimes it sounds like, Lord, I'm scared, but I trust you. God, I don't know what you're doing, but I won't let go. Father, even in this, I still believe. It's not performance. It's permission. You're giving heaven permission to invade your mess. And here's the beautiful part, God never needed your strength, only your surrender. Stop waiting to feel ready. If you're waiting for the perfect moment to pray bold, stop. If you're waiting to be fearless, stop. you'll never feel ready. That's the point. Bold prayer is stepping out while you still feel small. Speaking while you still doubt. Asking while you still ache. Because when you step into the uncomfortable, heaven steps into your situation. The shift that changes everything. Something shifts when you stop praying for comfort and start praying for courage. When you stop asking God to remove the fire and start asking Him to meet you in it. The enemy wants your voice silent. But when you pray boldly, even if it's through tears, you break chains. So pray scared. Pray trembling. Pray unsure. But pray. And don't stop. If all you can manage today is one breath, make it this. God, I trust you. That prayer, small as it may feel, carries the weight of heaven behind it. It's not the volume of your voice that shakes the spiritual realm, it's the authenticity of your surrender. And that is the beginning.